Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And this is a big episode. This is one that many of you have requested. So let's talk about Martin Gore as we look inside the mind of a musical genius. Martin Lee Gore was born on the 23rd of July 1961, which makes him 58 years at the time of the filming of this video. And that just makes me realize how time has passed us by. To think that Martin Gore is nearly 60 years old makes me really feel old. Martin Gore is the flamboyant, soft-spoken, and there are so many words I can use to describe him, but he is essentially the genius behind Depeche Mode. And now if you've been on this channel with me since the beginning, you will know we have spoken about Depeche Mode in excruciating detail. We started off with the first video being, what is Depeche Mode like since Alan Wilder has left? And we've had a lot of debate on that. Some of you feel, well, most of us feel that Depeche Mode has definitely lost something since Alan Wilder has left. We also asked the question, what does Fletch do within the band? And more so, what is his role on the stage? Whereas a lot of us just see him clapping, I try to point out in my one video that he is indeed doing something. We talked about Peter Gordino's addition to Depeche Mode as a live stage keyboard player, a session muso, essentially to replace Alan Wilder, really just for the live performances. And in that video, we once again sparked a debate, and once again, people in the community here had mixed reviews. Some people were very for him, some people very against him, and then of course there were those that were on the fence. A subject which is hugely debated on this channel is the subject of live drumming. When I asked the question, is live drumming really necessary? It sparked a huge debate. Now there are those of you who are on the fence and not really bothered, but you are in the minority. Most people within the community here have fundamentally picked a side. There are those of you who say, no, we like the live drumming, it really brings something to the shows. But the majority of us here feel that the live drumming can be a bit of a distraction. It can detract from the groove. And that also led me to ask the question, is Christian the right drummer for Depeche Mode? Now, I've always been very conscious of the fact that Christian is a very good drummer, and I always say that. I always recognize Christian as a phenomenal drummer, probably too good for Depeche Mode. It comes back to the drumming when Alan Wilder started in 1993 with the Devotional Tour, and Alan Wilder was not a drummer, but he had learned how to play drums, and he went out onto the tour as the drummer, and the results were very pleasing. And that led me to ask the question that is Christian not too good a drummer for Depeche Mode? And I just think that Christian, as you know, I don't think he shows enough restraint. I think he's too energetic, and and I think Dave kind of spurs him on, and it's a completely different subject. But you know that this is a huge subject and one of the core subjects of Depeche Mode we've been talking about on this channel. We've also discussed the vocals of Martin Gore and Dave Gahan and how their vocals form that iconic Depeche Mode sound. The dark, droning, powerful, direct baritone sound of Dave Gahan, contrasted by the sweet, airy, light tenor of Martin Gore. How the voices blend together to form that beautiful, iconic, glorious Depeche Mode sound. I've also made it my mission on this channel to do an album review series on Depeche Mode's work and to go into more detail than any YouTuber has ever gone before. And in this album review series, we have interviewed the likes of Brian Griffin, who is now a regular guest and contributor to the channel. And we spoke about the first 5 album covers, and we've gone through that in a lot of detail. I've interviewed Peter Kerr about the Shake the Disease music video. And I have also interviewed Mr. Dave Bascombe about the production of music for the masses. Now, with all of those videos under the belt, with all that in-depth discussion, it's made me realize we have never done a video dedicated to Martin Gore. And let's just face it, Depeche Mode, I always talk about not being a band, it's more like an institution. The more we dig into it, the more we find the more layers we find. But let's understand that the greatness of Depeche Mode and the success and longevity of Depeche Mode is down to many, many factors. But there is one thing that nullifies everything, even Alan Wilder's production. That is Martin Gore's songs. The song is the god. I always refer to songs as the god. Of any production, the song is everything. Everything else is just ingredients and style and delivery. The song is everything. Depeche Mode would not have been successful as what they are today if it were not for Martin's songs. And I will debate anyone on that subject. Remember, there are many reasons what makes a band successful, longevity and all these things, but it fundamentally comes down to the songs. It's all about the song. It is the foundation on which everything rests. If you don't have the song, you don't have anything. Now, Martin, we know, is a very soft-spoken, shy kind of guy. And I believe that his shyness has caused him problems in life. I can relate to that shyness. I was a very shy kid in school, and I could never, when I was younger, and I could never assert myself, and it became a problem. And a lot of my subscribers and friends that are huge Depeche Mode fans, many of you are the same. And I find that a lot of Depeche Mode fans are quite similar. And I don't want to put everyone in the same box, but there are certain character traits. This band does seem to attract a very sort of deep thinking type of person, a very abstract type of person, and that is why I often say when people go, "Oh, it's depressing," I usually say it's because you're too fucking stupid to understand it. I would go as far to say that. Now, when I talk about Martin Gore's inability to express himself being a problematic character trait, it has really. And I mean, if we all know that Fletch is kind of like the mouthpiece for Martin. Fletch is the guy who, when Martin is feeling upset and cannot express himself, Fletch will go up and say, "Okay, what is it you want, Martin? What is it you want, Martin? Okay. Listen, Alan, Martin doesn't like that sound in the middle eighth. No, it's got to change." I think, obviously, if we fast forward to the present date, I've talked about how, take the 101 tour, when you watched Martin singing songs. I'm thinking of when he went onto stage singing, "I heard it from my friends about the things you said." He was wearing that white mafia hat, and he stood with his hand on his hip like this, and he just, no, I don't want to say no energy, but he was shy, and even on stage. But you look at him now, he jumps around and he really goes for it. So he's really come out of his shell. But talking about his character flaws, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but his inability to express himself and his shyness really gave us the great body of work. I'm thinking of Shake the Disease. Shake the Disease, really, if you listen to the song and the lyrics, it is really a song about one's inability to express oneself. "Here is a plea from my heart to you. Nobody knows me as well as you do. You know how hard it is for me to shake the disease. It takes a hold of my tongue in situations like these." And with that said, I am busy doing a Shake the Disease special. Part 2 is coming out next week, so be sure to watch that. But Shake the Disease is an example of shyness. So, and there are too many examples to go into, but often you will find that with great artists, their flaws and their insecurities become their greatest asset with the songs. Songs like Shake the Disease, and of course there are many others, are a manifestation of Martin's shyness. I get the idea that Martin is really shy, and what he cannot tell you in person, it'll come out in a song. And soft-spoken and shy. And I met Martin Gore back in 2001 when I was working in a music retail store. You guys have been asking me to do a video about that meeting with Martin Gore. I sold him some musical equipment, and I will, but I figured that'll be a good video to do soon after this one. Now, Martin Gore did grow up in Basildon, and Basildon is a town which, it's one of those towns when you mention it, people kind of always snigger. They go, Basildon. It's a small town, and, for a band as iconic as Depeche Mode, to come from such a small place, it just proves that greatness is not the town that you're in. My dad always taught me never think or become as small as the town you're from. And Martin definitely had this vision and these ideas. And I'm just thinking now I believe Basildon was quite a rough town in those days. So I think someone as sensitive as Martin, growing up in a kind of rough town, it must have been quite difficult. But he was really into, as a kid, he was into like stories and fairy tales, and he really did shut himself off. He was a real sort of introvert. When I read one of the Depeche Mode biographies, I was very surprised to learn that Martin Gore is actually mixed race. And I'm surprised, I was surprised to read that, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know that now even. But he was, I think it was at the age of 13, his mum decided to tell him the truth, because up until that point, Martin believed that his stepfather was his biological father. And from what I've read and what I've heard, I believe that the reason Martin's mum only told him the truth at the age of 13 was to prevent Martin from getting any racial abuse, and which I found really sad reading at the time. And it just made me realize that, we live in this world where you have to hide what you are to not be abused by the people. Sad but true, but a completely different subject. But it turns out that Martin's biological father was an African-American soldier which was stationed in the UK at the time. And that's a very interesting story that I think a lot of people don't know. Now, I believe around about the age of 12, 13, Martin Gore got a acoustic guitar for his birthday, or as a present. He basically locked himself away with that thing, and that's where he became obsessed with music. And this is where it all started. And I believe the song See You was written by Martin when he was only 14 or 15 years old. So I think that a lot of those initial ideas started at that early age. And I think he learned by look, Martin is not classically trained. I remember this was one of the questions I asked him when I met him many years ago. He's not classically trained. He hasn't had vocal lessons. He hasn't had guitar lessons, piano lessons, nothing. He is completely self-trained. And when you look at some of his music, which I'm going to run through now, that is very, very amazing. What is interesting is when I play Depeche Mode's music, and me, guys, I myself am not musically trained. I've never had a lesson in my life. And so I love when I've mentioned this before, when I take these songs, I have friends who are like grade 8 pianists and, like proper schooled musicians. And I love demonstrating these songs to these people who are, who have a proper musical background, and asking them about the questions. And very often, a lot of the people that are on this high musical level, when analyzing Depeche Mode songs, will say, one thing they usually say is, they're beautiful, but they're a bit weird. And a lot of the things that Martin does with his songs, they're very unconventional, very left field, very unusual. I've coined the phrase agorism, and agorism is something that Martin does in his songs that is so distinctly Martin. And now I'm going to demonstrate some of the songs to you, I'm just going to flow through them just to show you some of the melodies that are in his mind. And once again, just on the piano, so we're not distracted by the synthesized sound. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that when I demonstrate these songs to you as Martin's songs, I have to bear in mind that Alan had input into these songs. Now, it's a deep subject, but if we take the song Shake the Disease, for example, if you listen to the demo, all the musical parts are in there. All the da-da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, all the little parts are in there. Martin has talked about Alan being like a school teacher who could say, okay, I like that idea, but let's take it to the next level. And that is something they've lost since Alan has left. But let's run through some of the songs just to show you the brilliance of Martin. Let's start off with The Sun and the Rainfall. Simplicity is beautiful. Shake the Disease is always a fan favorite. Of course, I am in the middle of doing a Shake the Disease special, so be sure to watch that video coming out next week. Once again, I'm conscious of the fact that a lot of these compositions Alan Wilder had an input in. But if I take Shake the Disease, for example, I know that all the parts, all the little da-da-da-dun and all those little parts were present on Martin Gore's demos, which made me realize that all the essence, you know, all those ideas were from Martin. It does vary a little bit if you take a song like Walking in My Shoes. If you listen to the demo, although the fundamental idea is there, obviously without all the sort of the atmosphere and the great Alan Wilder landscape sound. But something that is also missing in the Walking in My Shoes demo is the melodic part, which is the So what I'm pointing out there is that da 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 da. That part is not in the demo. So the question I'm asking is, who came up with that melody? Was it Alan or not? And this is the fine line in subject for another video. There's a fine line in, and bands have taken each other to court in suing each other for parts that were put into songs. So for instance, in this case, Martin would have written the song, but Alan may have come up with this little melody, which Alan might argue is an integral part of the song. Therefore, he requires a bigger cut of the royalty. And that is a very, very complex subject, which we're not going to delve into now. I will do another video to address this regarding the 60s rock band called Procol Harum, and they did that song called A Whiter Shade of Pale. And there was a legal battle several years ago where the organ player took this, took the singer to court because he argued that the organ lead part on A Whiter Shade of Pale is as iconic as the song, and they went into a legal battle. But anyway, that is something completely separate. But it is me just being conscious of the fact that Alan Wilder did have great input into Martin's songs. However, I will never take away from the fact that these are Martin's songs. And Martin, full respect to you, brother. Now, illustrating on that term, which I call agorism, which is really a chord that kind of comes in that you go, oh, I wasn't expecting. Let's look at that on Walking in My Shoes. On the melodic part, you've got that. Now that it's so unconventional. A more conventional way to approach that part would be this. So that was played wrong, of course, on purpose, just to demonstrate. Whereas Martin goes to the... So instead of going... That kind of sounds more... it sounds more easy, whereas Martin is... It just gives it that more, and that's what I call agorism. It's that clash of notes, or that unsettled feeling where that note is, oh, that I wasn't expecting that. We see that in so many of these songs. Once again, if we take Never Let Me Down Again. it is again. Yeah. I mean, take Never Let Me Down Again. It's melody, beautiful melody, and under that you've got... Stripped, one of my favorite Depeche Mode songs. Once again, strip the synthesizers away and just listen to the melody behind it. Did you see the Goreism there? Here it is. There. It's just that note that you feel the tension and then it resolves afterwards. I think it's called, as my subscriber, Gary Walker, shout out to you, brother. He said it's called a borrowed chord. And that's obviously, he obviously has a better understanding of musical theory than I do. But now coming back to Stripped, watch how haunting this is. You see, take away all the synthesizers and just play it on the piano. They are beautiful, timeless songs. And I'll go as far as to say that if Martin Gore was born 500 years ago, he would still be a great musician. He probably wouldn't write the same songs, of course he wouldn't, but there would still be that genius. It would just be, you know, presented and projected in a different way. As producer Dave Bascombe said when I interviewed him, that Martin has a tremendous eclectic taste in music. Tremendous taste, wide and varied. I remember Martin Gore talking on an interview once how he listens to music from all different types, very odd, very weird, very stuff that you've never heard of before, very sort of unfound stuff. In this interview, I remember Dave Gone interjecting and saying that Martin has always had a soft spot for country. And you can kind of hear that with Martin in his songs. He sometimes has this kind of country, because country music does have this real sort of like, it's all about feeling. And in Martin's songs, there is often this real sort of like, sentimental feeling, which is kind of synonymous with country music in a way. And of course, he also has this kind of glam rock thing going. And Martin's like this melting pot of all this huge variety of eclectic taste and, you know, unconventional approaches, which go into this melting pot, and you get this magic that is Martin Gore. That is so strange that you can't put your finger on it, which is simple and familiar yet weird and strange but beautifully comforting at the same time. It's very difficult to put in words, but if you're a devotee, you will know exactly what I mean. And this is perfectly illustrated in the song Pimp. I mean, that song is mad. Dave Bascombe talked in the interview how watching Martin recording Pimp, he said it was just amazing. Do yourself a favor and check out that interview series. He talked about how Pimp, the recording of that track, went very fast. It was just Martin went in and Martin actually did all the voices in Pimp. Now, a lot of people don't know that. I certainly did not know that. You've got the home in, ha, home in, ha. It was all Martin, and Pimp has got this real sort of operatic thing going. It is a mad song. Now, on the song Pimp, on the record, it's obviously a piano track. Now, all the piano parts on that record were played by Alan Wilder, But let's not take the fact away that these were Martin's songs. And I would love to hear the demo of Pimpf, sorry. But I mean, let's just look at Pimpf. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I will cover this as part of my Music for the Masses album review series. But if we look at Pimpf, it's really some simple ideas which loop and loop and loop, and you know, the production adds and adds. But let's just focus on the melody of Pimpf. That is odd. That is very, very strange. And once again, when I've played the song to one of my grade 8 piano guru friends, he just went, "Oh, wow." Because a lot of the things that Martin does, they're not in the book. It's not conventional. It's not... And sometimes I feel that studying music can sometimes put you in a box, although I'm not against it because it's obviously a great education. But Pimpf, what a song. It goes on to be more dramatic on the, you know, it just builds and builds. Eventually we get to... And we know the rest, but I'm going to go into detail in that in my album review series. If we take weird, strange, beautiful melodic music, I'm thinking of Stjärna. Forgive my pronunciation. It's a Swedish word for star. Listen to the melody. It's all there. And remember, once again, these songs these were from the Music for the Masses album, and these are B-sides, but these songs were played by Alan on the piano, but it was Martin. These are Martin's ideas. These are Martin's songs. So Martin would obviously come up with these, and he'd say, "Alan, can you play them?" Because obviously Alan can play them better. But I will never take the fact that these are Martin's ideas. Agent Orange. Yet another example of a brilliant melody. Here is the house. It's all there. People are people. Black Celebration. See, there's that clash again, that Goreism. Here it comes. There it is. Always has that Goreism, that way of that chord that just hits you from the left field and you're like, I was not expecting that. Now take a song like Behind the Wheel. We know it as we know it so well, but listen to it as a piano piece, how haunting it is. I will go into that in more detail in my album review series. But these songs are just so great with or without the electronics. How could we forget Enjoy the Silence? I love how that song starts with that guitar riff playing the part I've just played to you, and then later on there's the melodic part, which is similar to that guitar riff, slightly different, but then the bass notes change. So it'll go from to this. And then back to once again, Enjoy the Silence is an example of how Martin's demo was taken to another level by Alan and Flood. So, but I cannot once again take the credit away from Martin for actually coming up with the song and the melody. And of course, Alan would just, through his genius, add that his interpretation to take it to the next level. But the songs all stem from the genius mind of Martin Gore. Now, as I'm sitting here filming this, I'm realizing we could go on forever, and there are so many great melodies. I'm thinking, how about this one? How about this one? But I'm going to leave you with this one. And I'll stop right there before I get carried away. But as you can see, there are tons and tons of examples of great songwriting, great melodies, great inspiration. Fill in the blank. With or without the production, these songs are outstandingly stunning. And there are so many different examples. Now, my friends, I would like to leave it up to you. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Martin Gore. If you were to have a beer, if someone said to you, you could have a beer with any one of the 4 Depeche Mode members, which member would you have a beer with? I know for me personally, it would be very difficult to choose, but I would, if I was given the opportunity to have a beer with a member of Depeche Mode, I would choose between Alan or Martin. I'd have to flip a coin. It would be really interesting to have a beer with both of them. So let me know who you'd like to have a beer with. Let me know your feelings on Martin Gore. And once again, even though this is an in-depth look into Martin Gore, we can only scratch the surface even in a slightly longer video like this. So let me know what your feelings are on Martin Gore. Do you agree with me when I say that his songwriting is almost, I don't want to say it's undervalued, because I mean, you know, Depeche Mode have done well, and there are, you know, I think there are people out there who really are undervalued. But I think what I want to ask you as a fan is, do you think, you know, when you talk about Depeche Mode, do you think that Martin gets enough credit within Depeche Mode, or do you think his songwriting is sometimes a little bit overshadowed by the other aspects of the band? And with that, my friends, I hope you've enjoyed this Martin Gore special. Once again, leave your comments below so we can elaborate in further subjects, in further episodes. Once again, coming up shortly next week, my Depeche Mode album review series continues. We are now going to go on to the next part of Music for the Masses. Also, check out part 2 of the Shake the Disease special, which is coming out this Wednesday. And as always, if you're enjoying this, please consider supporting the channel by joining the Patreon page. There is also a Facebook page and a Facebook group. Feel free to join the Facebook group and jump in and join the fun there. And the Facebook group, we really just use that as a way to discuss the videos and the subjects that we cover here on the Vaughan George channel. But my friends, I would like to thank you, as always, to those of you who have been with me from the start, and to those of you who have just joined. Please hit that subscribe button, like, share, and make yourself welcome in this positive and welcoming community. And guys, with that, I leave you to it, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care of yourselves, and adios.